Welcome back, everybody. I'm so excited. This is a first for me. Not only do I get a chance to speak to two amazing actors and I can talk shop to them, but they're also married. So there are so many questions that I can ask. Please welcome to the program Elizabeth and Cliff Saunders.
Hello.
Hello, thank you.
Thanks for having
Hello. Yeah, it's my pleasure. And thanks to Sujith Verghese and the Characters Talent Agency for arranging this. I really appreciate it.
me. Yeah. No, it's
Yes.
great. And I just watched, I didn't get to the end, but I watched a bit of your interview with Bruce, which
Yeah,
was wonderful.
yeah, that was great.
With
Thank
Bruce.
you.
Bruce
Yeah.
Dow.
Bruce is wonderful. I really I really enjoyed it. At the very end, when you get there, you'll did you hear Bruce sing yet?
Not on the
No,
video.
no, but
Good.
I've acted with him when he sang. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you'll see Bruce singing, and then I think at the almost very end, you'll hear me writing Shakespearean type of poetry that I that I wrote for after I watched Midsummer Night's Dream, and since Bruce was part of not the same production, but Midsummer Night's Dream, I thought you would appreciate it. So you'll see
uh,
that at the very end. Yeah, I get, people are watching these and sometimes they're saying, okay, these are, about an hour long. I don't know if I can dedicate this much time. And it's true. It takes time to get to the bottom of these questions, and I'm okay with it. And so
yeah.
let's start on ours. Um, Before I kind of dive into all of the shop talk, if you will, and I really want to ask you questions individually. It's fascinating to me because you're a working actor family and you've been married for a long time. You have two grown daughters. My wife, who's not in the business, she's always worried about the uncertainty that comes with the acting profession. You have the double dose of uncertainty, and you've done that successfully for quite a while. What's the secret there?
But the secret is when one person is having dry spells, for some reason the other person uh, ends up getting work. Sometimes we're both going pretty hard at the same time, but
Yeah.
I think that, and also, we knew what we were getting into when we got into this business and this relationship. Uh,
Yeah.
I would
Well,
say,
I don't know when you're young if you really know. Like it's sort of later that you go, oh, this is tricky sometimes.
yeah,
Yeah.
And you kind of have to you rather have to roll with it. And I think we've been fortunate in that I think Cliff has had enough work that's buoyed us
Hmm.
for a lot of time, and I sort of had enough work. Well, it's been more than enough to be sort of secondary, but it's a decent amount of work. But I also teach, and I've had to expand my repertoire
mhm.
in
Yeah.
terms of what I do to earn a living.
I I think also I grew up pretty much impoverished, and so I didn't have a great kind of concept of money and stuff like that. So thankfully, Lizzie handled all the kind of finances and kept an eye on things and all that. So I think that helps too. Like
But we're a good balance that way because
yeah,
I worry about money. So he
mm,
can counterbalance me
yeah,
because
yeah.
he doesn't get as fretful about it. And
Mm,
I do find it hard in this business when you look at the bank account and it's really low and
Yeah.
there's nothing on the horizon.
yeah.
It's frightening.
Mm,
But it's good that you mentioned that, because that's the reality. And what we want out of the show is we want to show people the reality. We want to show people who are just starting in acting. We want to show people who've been at it for years, and what the reality is like. So if they choose to pursue the passion that I have, and that you have, this is what it's like. You have to account for certain things.
mm,
The other aspect of acting is the travel, right? You get called on interesting projects. You have to go somewhere, outside Canada. How is that? How do you balance that in terms of, having a family?
Well, I mean, Cliff has done the vast majority of the travel since we've been married. Actually,
Okay.
when we first got married, I tended to be the person that would
yeah,
work out of town a lot,
yeah.
and then we got married, and it seemed to naturally shift. But I think it did come into play the fact that I think once we had our daughters,
Mm-hmm.
I unwittingly lost some of my drive to pursue jobs outside of Toronto or outside of the province.
Yeah.
Because I intrinsically felt the need to be at home with the kids, because we felt we needed someone at home, and also just money wise, we couldn't afford to be we didn't want to pass the kids on to a nanny, but we couldn't afford to do that either. So that's how we've done it.
For me, I never actually, I didn't pursue working out of town. I'm not really good at pursuing anything really, except for this little one. But
little,
but
little man.
But jobs did kind of opportunities to work out of town kind of came my way, where I was asked to go and audition for something in New York or, whatever. And so, and that was great. Now that it was tricky sometimes, like both times I did Broadway, I was there for about a year. And when you have your family here, they came down for extended visits.
Yeah.
But here, meaning Toronto, in case anybody's wondering where we are, extended visits. But generally, we decided that we would stay here in our house, and kids would go to school here and stuff like that. But come the end of the year, it was time for me to come back. I felt I was needed back here, and also I needed them as well. I love working there, but I also love being up here as well, and that. So, but it was tricky because sometimes the daughters might be going through tough times or something, and that was really that was very hard to be away.
That
and you can just have the phone, and
that's something that I would say if you're going to get real about it for people who are considering going into it and having a family, we have had to deal with illness, children's illness, and that's where there is a choice to be made. And Cliff, on one occasion, did have to end the contract. Like the contract was coming to an end, and he could have extended, but
both occasions
he had to come home because we needed Dad in the house because there was significant illness in the house. I will say that being in Canada and our healthcare system, I'm Australia on it. That thank God we had it, because two actors in the States may not have had that fallback that we are very grateful for here.
It's true. No, it's a very valid point, and being in the States, that's something that we have to worry about. Being I'm a father of two kids, let's say 16 and an 11-year-old. So me being in Chicago, Chicago in some ways is like Toronto, although you have more stuff shot there. So Sujit and I were actually talking about that. If I really want to pursue things, I may need to go to LA, or I may need to go to New York. Less in Chicago, and then you have that trade-off of what is important to me. Denzel Washington said that acting is a great way to make a living, but family is the reality. So what do you use? It's things that we have to do, and we have to figure out ways to kind of balance it. So thank you. I appreciate that reality check. It's very important to everybody who's watching.
Well, and they bring us so much. Like, I think they've made us. I'm not saying it makes everybody a better actor, but I think for us, having kids and going through some of the hardships we've been through as we've aged, helped us be more, have greater breadth as humans and actors.
Yeah, because that's what we bring. You can pretend to be somebody else, but there's a lot of yourself that you bring in there. So the more experiences, the more ability to see people and understand people, the better you are as an actor.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. And by the time you're 80, you don't have to. There's no acting required. You can just know everything.
Yeah.
Just think.
Go ahead, Cliff. I'm sorry.
No. Yeah, just think it and try and remember your lines.
Yeah, well, I think Marlon Brando by the end of it, he had a little earpiece, so he wasn't worried about remembering lines. He just had it read to him. But let's see if we can get to that point where that's going to be okay for us.
Yeah, we can have it just implanted in our head.
By then, yeah.
Just,
Hey, with the technology, I think it's coming. It's going to be here.
Yeah.
Speaking of kind of long careers, I find it fascinating. And by the way, Elizabeth, congratulations on your nomination that you just had.
oh, thank
You're very welcome. And I bet some people are looking at it and say, "Wow, that's great. That's kind of the overnight success." And we know that overnight has been 30 years in the making.
Yeah.
It's acting for you, isn't it? Some people just don't realize what it takes and how long it takes to get to that overnight success state.
Well, exactly. And and having watched Sujits,
Yeah.
you're working in the witness protection program. Yeah. It's lovely to have it. I hope once things open back up that it opens work for me. But we also know that it may just be a nice thing on my IMDb.
Well, hopefully,
but
hopefully your next nomination is in a shorter increment than your previous two of 1990 and 2020.
I hope so too. I'll be very old. Maybe they'll just give it to me for being old.
There's plenty of work, and I'm going to say something as a compliment. I hope it's taken as such. But Elizabeth, when I started looking at your work and I was looking at your reel, there were aspects of Judi Dench that I immediately saw.
Okay, there are two people
Uh-huh.
that it thrills me if someone says aspects of. Judi Dench is one. I wish. Judi Dench, and then I don't know if you're familiar with the actress Nicola Walker from Britain. Oh my God, you have to look at Nicola Walker. She's sublime. She's
okay, good.
Yeah, look up Nicola Walker. But thank you. I will take that as a compliment because I think Judi Dench is spectacular.
So do I, and I saw I saw a lot of that because what she brings, again, the stuff that I note for me that's interesting to watch is there is a lot of sensitivity, there is a lot of intricacy, and there is a lot of depth, and that's what I saw in your reel, and that was just immediately flew. I'm like, okay, good, I like it. I have a lot of questions to ask.
Okay, good.
That's
the goal.
Yeah.
Nuance, and I can watch it and go, "Ew, it's all flat," and that's fake. That's me watching my reel.
I think all of us are that way individually. We may be watching and some things we like and some things we're just so focused on because we see ourselves. And I want to get to a point where I can look at my work or some of my work and just see, oh, okay, that's a different character. I'm not seeing me. I see somebody else. I'm not there, but I'd like to one day.
I bet you're more there than you think you are.
I hope so. Thank you. I'll take that as a compliment. And Cliff, when I was watching, Les Mis and a number of things, but I saw The Master of the House. Honestly, the first thing that came to mind, aside from I immediately got wrapped up in it and I wanted to watch it again and again, but the hops that you had on that, jumping back on the table, to me, and I do mean this as a compliment too, it was almost cartoonish, because I didn't know that humans can actually do that sort of thing in reality. And that blew my mind. So when I saw, and I started doing my research on you and you being a physical actor, that is something that struck me as, okay, I really need to talk about this because that's amazing. So very well done.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, the cartoon thing is, I think growing up watching Looney Tunes,
Yeah.
And then I fell into the literally fell into the pratfalls and stuff um, uh, in my career because I thought I was going to be this method actor and all that. But uh, I was doing a show one time, and everybody, the director was laughing at everybody, and I was playing the kind of the ingenue, but it was a comedy. It was and a commedia dell'arte play, and I just like was seeing all this, and then so somebody walked by me and did that, and I fell down. Director laughed, and I thought, okay, I know how to, this is something I know how to do. I mean, the falling down never bothered me, but I also think um, when I do this stuff, I think I think rubber, I think Looney Tunes, and I think kamikaze. And for me, the air is my friend. And the stage is just like, okay, that's the punctuation. But and the reason, and I think children, because when children play, ultimately all these things that I'm talking about is eliminate the fear, and you can do it.
Yeah.
That jumping back onto the table, I said, well, maybe I'll hop onto the. Can you guys make sure you clear your mugs before I do it, because I want to do it without looking. I just want to, just kind of pink, I'm there. And but anyway, the fear thing is when you have fear, you tense up, and that's when you hurt yourself. And so the thinking rubber and but when children play, they go, I'm a superhero, and they go, and they run and they jump and they land on the floor, and we all go, oh, but they're fine because they're just thinking, yeah, I'm playing, right? And we're playing on stage, but it's hard. And when you're old, the older you are, it's hard. But the minute if you just kind of go, just do it. Now you have to also have some ability. You have to have the physical ability to be able to do it. I wouldn't advise it to everybody, but for some reason I did, and part of that was because when I was a lad, I come from a large family, and one of my brothers, I remember one time was over with a friend, and they were, they did judo and stuff, but they were also kind of exploring karate, and they used to flip me. I was just a little fella, but they'd flip me in the air and then, and kick me in midair and all this stuff. And then it was like, oh, and I have to, and then it's like, oh, the ground's coming. So I think I kind of learned how to fall. I wasn't afraid of it after a while because what was happening in the air was more scary than the ground. But ultimately, I always think like, well, I got the last laugh because while they were beating the pulp out of me, I'm going like, well, I now am not afraid to throw myself, on stage and land. And I was my bread and butter came from that, and so I got the last laugh there. So.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's that fear factor, and being able to overcome it and just have fun. It's a I in Chicago. I'm not sure. I mean, you've been to Chicago, I think
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, I did. I worked at the Chicago Shakespeare.
Yep.
Yes. Yeah.
Which is actually that photo here, right behind
Yeah.
me, right?
Yeah.
That's right behind the Chicago Shakespeare Theater. This is when my parents and I got our citizenship in 1995.
Oh,
So
oh,
On
okay.
Navy Pier, or is that,
yeah,
or
Navy
yeah.
Pier, right behind the theater. That's where it is.
Oh,
Very cool. So in Chicago, in the it used to be Sears Tower, now it's the Willis Tower. You have they kind of did these cubes, and these are where you can basically go in a way outside and be on this glass or plastic container where you're stepping and there is nothing beneath you.
mm,
So you know that it's safe and it's absolutely fine, but there is a part, something within you as you're about to cross over. There's something that says nope, nope. So I found myself that I had to overcome that. So and that is safe. Other things that I saw you do, I have to do a lot more self-analysis and try to convince myself that it's okay.
It's interesting. We were at a friend's last night doing social distance backyarding, and
Yeah.
we were. I was talking about that. Like me, I'll go. I can go up the heights, but I get a shiver right up my tailbone every time, and that's I think that's our animal instinct says that's danger, right? That's not natural. We're not supposed to be up there. And so we have that at the CN Tower. They have a plexiglass bottom floor that kids are going and adults are going nope and stepping around it just in case, you know.
Yeah, and I think I saw that in China as well, but in Chicago, one of those, they have many, many layers, and one of the layers did what it was supposed to do, which is kind of shatter to show that, hey, I need to be changed. But I would not want to be the person on that cube at that particular moment. No, thank you.
I know.
Yeah. Liz, may I call you Liz, or do you prefer Elizabeth?
Yeah, no, I go by Liz.
Okay. It's interesting. Again, you start to kind of doing research, and I'm doing my deep dive into both of your careers. And for both of you, I've actually seen you before, and I've seen you a number of times, and at different points in my life. Liz, I've seen you first time in the Kung Fu, Legend. I saw that. I came in 1989 to the United States, and as a kid, martial arts. I love martial arts. I always loved martial arts. So Kung Fu, when it came out, I wanted to watch it, and I saw that whole series, and I saw you there. Cliff, same thing with you with La Femme Nikita. I've seen you there. So
Yeah.
it's interesting how an actor's journey and somebody who's been doing this for a long time and has been in many things, you've been in people's lives. They may not have realized it, and
True.
there's something to that, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, I don't. I guess I don't think about that from that perspective. I just look at my resume. But yeah, that there are people that they've encountered us multiple times, but have no clue they've encountered us until the dots are connected.
Yeah, Cliff and Shazam. I saw Shazam. I went with my kids. I love it. And you were in Shazam. So it's these things. By the way, both of you got to work with Zachary Levi. How was that?
Of course, yes. I was Miss Honey, and he was a bit of a ne'er do well.
Yeah.
Yeah, he buttered me up.
Well, that's in your demo. That's the first place where you actually smile. Before that, you've always been the serious, very serious character.
Honey didn't, unlike her, she doesn't have a very honey-like personality, but I loved doing that. It was absolutely spectacular to work on.
Yeah. And how was Shazam for you, Cliff?
Oh, it was fine. I mean, that was a day of filming. That was it, right? But it was. First off, when my agent said, "Oh, you got the DC movie," I'm going, I think you're talking to somebody else. This is Cliff. She goes, yeah, congratulations on the DC comic movie. I said, I didn't audition for one. I said, I mean, no, I auditioned for a thing called Franklin, whatever. She goes, no, that's it. So when you're auditioning, a lot of times they don't give you the real name of the show because they don't want stalkers and all that stuff. But like, it's not necessarily for me, but I didn't even know it was a DC comic thing. I just auditioned and then they gave it to me. But on set, they were great. They were really nice. And, the three of them were excellent to work with. And we kind of, a little bit improvising, which was fun with the name tag and, I just kind of, he said something, called me moron or whatever. And I just reacted and said, it's Moran or something. But, things like that, it was fun. We tried, and then we did a little more improvising and all that. Yeah, it was a fun thing. It's fun to be part of big stuff. Like I was in the movie Chicago, and that was
Yep.
huge. The momentum, and I just had a little part of the beginning and the end, but the momentum was crazy. Like it's kind of neat, even if you're only in it a bit. It's kind of neat to be a part of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, those were your two biggest one, and I think Liz, for you was it. I think that was
Oh,
your the bigger movie.
I mean, the blockbuster, yeah, that would be the only blockbuster I've been in. Yes. Yeah, that was fantastic, and I loved working with Andy. Like it was a lot of fun. And I didn't see that one coming either. I did the audition and thought, well, there's a million gals that could do this job, but the good actresses, and I got to do it. So I was very happy to do that.
That's the thing. I think other people, that are watching this, that are outside of the acting biz, if you will, they don't realize that, hey, we do auditions all the time, and most of the time we don't think about it because we've trained and we've been trained. You do it, you forget it because 99% of the time you hear nothing, and that's it. So
Yeah,
we tend not to get excited, and then we become surprised. Oh my
yeah,
goodness!
yeah,
And see, okay, here we go. Let's do
yeah.
it.
I mean, this still happens. When I was young, it would sometimes take a very long time for me to let the audition go. And then I realized that it was not very constructive. Like it was destructive
Yeah.
to be that worked up about something that I'd gone up in and done. But I also understand that we put a lot of work into those auditions. So you're with it intensely for hours before you go in, and then suddenly you get 5 minutes, you leave, and you're supposed to just act like nothing happened in your body, but actually your whole body's been invested in it for
Yep.
hours on end.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, especially when you get sides the night before and it's a morning morning time, uh, and you're schwitzing basically for a long time, and that's it. 2 minutes, 5 minutes, you're out. Okay, thanks.
yeah, yeah,
That's why when you're leaving, you're on the sidewalk, you're
Yeah.
going through the audition and you're acting it again, and
yeah,
you're going like, and you're acting it the way you think you did it in the room to see if that was okay.
Mhm.
yeah.
One time I auditioned for a movie. It was called Open Range. It was a Western. Kevin
Yep.
Costner and Robert Duvall and all that. And then my agent, I kind of went in, did it, and left. And I did the thing you were talking about where you go and then you got to let it go. And then my agent called and said, a little while later, and said, "Oh, by the way, you're still the first choice of that. They're just waiting because they're dealing with because I wouldn't be there till the second month of shooting. And I went, and then it was like a month and a week of filming out of town. But I'm going, what is that? I don't remember that. What is it? Open range. I said, and I go, I don't remember it. I don't remember it. And then I forgot. Well, it's like, well, I'll believe it when I see it. Yeah, that's another thing we do. It was like, oh yeah, you're pinned. That's a new phrase. You're pinned, and you're like,
Yep.
usually it means, that means you're the choice, and then you never get it. But then I'm going like, and then I forgot about it, and then my agent said, oh, you're still the first choice. Next week, and then they said, okay, the contract, here's the deal, da 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 da, and you go out in month of August and all that. Okay. I said, I still don't remember this, and okay. And then finally, I get the script and sent to me, and I literally was, I'm a little embarrassed about this, but I kind of like, oh, I got to read that, I got to read it. I literally was on the airplane flying out to Calgary, reading and going, oh yeah, I remembered that. So I literally was like, I didn't, and then I went, oh yeah, that's a fun part. That's great. And then I, did my work out there on the airplane then to kind of learn it and all that. I didn't remember.
Listen, I think maybe, and again, Gabriella Sundar Singh, who's a wonderful Canadian actress, she was on the show a couple of weeks ago. Her and I were talking about this, that in my case, once I get the sides, right? These are not the sides, these are the questions for you. But I get the sides and I learn them. I go through my process, I audition. Then in a matter, I don't know if it's seconds or minutes, but in a very, very short period of time, those lines are out. So they're in the short memory and they definitely do not make their way into the long-term memory at all. So if I get a call back, 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 4 weeks later, I have to go back because there are many things that I don't remember. So I started kind of making specific notes and things to come back to it easier and quicker. But is it like that way with you as well? You do it and it's out.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a thing because of that. I will keep my sides for a while just in case I get a call back. And then so then I look at it and hope that okay, that will snap something back in there.
Yeah.
But I have a thing where because I have a reading disability, a form of dyslexia, that I have to kind of get off book. It's really hard for me to read and act.
Yeah.
So
Me too, actually.
they're probably in a little bit more, but generally, no, they're gone pretty quick, like you say, and which is very strange. I mean, I wonder what that does to our brains and our just like things that are like you have to take in all this information so quick, and then get on with it. That how it must scramble the brain a bit, to work that way.
I think it's actually, again, I started acting seriously. I did some stuff as a kid. Then we came to the United States. Then, my parents said, you're not going to be an actor. You're going to have a career. So I kept kind of coming back to it over and over and finally started doing it seriously maybe 2 or 3 years ago. And I remember distinctly that my memory at that point was A. As soon as I had to start learning a lot of words all the time, auditions, even just in studying it, the memory part improved significantly. Vocabulary usage, the ability to recall, all of those things immediately or almost immediately got upgraded. It's as if the brain got some kind of an upgrade. So it built new neural pathways in order to now take advantage of the new functionality. But
Yeah.
I don't know in terms of long-term memory because I can't remember any of the lines unless I have to, and then you do it again.
Yeah.
You see that with people that are leads in TV series. Anyway, so some of those people that are the leads, they're so fast at learning lines because they can't, dwell on them. They have to be in the present, this scene, and then they go away, and then they look and they almost really learn their lines between each take. They'll do the work then the night before, but they can only do so much. But they're very fast, and then they just toss them out and move on.
I think we have to. I read, West Wing, my favorite TV drama of all time. There's a lot of dialogue there. So, normal shows may have, 30 to 40 pages for the week for the episode that they were shooting. In West Wing, they may have 60 pages. So you have to learn a lot of dialogue and be able to go and then do it again and again and again. So I think let's just agree, whether wishful thinking or not, that what we're doing is good for our brains. We're going to go with that.
Yeah. Good. And also with West Wing, you got to learn all that dialogue and speak really quickly, yes. And overlap and walk at the same time.
Yep. I think Aaron. I think he kind of pioneered that whole thing of walking and talking. I'm rewatching it now. I don't know how many times I've seen The West Wing, but there are no kind of new shows that I'm really interested in, so I'm rewatching The West Wing.
Nice.
That's what I'm doing now. Liz, let's dive into some of your stuff. Talking about recent things, one of my favorite recent shows is Schitt's Creek. You get a chance to be in that. Um, what was that like?
Oh, it was fantastic. It was a teeny part, and
Right.
I auditioned for it. I think that I was. I think they said, would Liz come in and do this, which felt really nice.
Yeah.
But because it's not very big, and I went, it's with Catherine O'Hara. I don't care. She's a huge hero of mine. I think she's absolutely brilliant, and so it was a thrill for me just to do that. And I don't always feel that way. Like sometimes I go, it's a job. This one's a job. It's a good job. I'm enjoying it. But Schitt's Creek was just it was just a great time on set, but also just getting a chance to work with Catherine O'Hara for one moment was absolutely worth it. And she's just a lovely woman as well, aside from being one of the funniest gals around.
She's amazing. My daughter still to this day, goes around and does her Moira impression. She just snaps into it for whatever reason that she feels like. It's great. I love it.
And I think for our generation in Canada, we grew up with SCTV. So she's been a hero of mine for 30 more years. Like when I was a teenager, Cliff and I both loved SCTV. We lived on the other ends of the country, didn't know each other, but we both loved that program. So she's been a hero of mine as a performer for 30 years. So
yeah, me too.
She's brilliant. Eugene, American Pie. I don't know if that was the first time that I saw Eugene Levy, but maybe. And that was just amazing, and I've loved him and everything ever since.
He's fantastic, and he's managed to keep going from nonstop. He's always been working, with the Christopher Guest movies and all that stuff as well, which he's fantastic. And he's been going nonstop since SCTV and a little bit before that. But they're here.
Christopher Guest was an interesting kind of a little story. Coming to the United States in '89, I didn't know anything about Princess Bride. I didn't know anything about Mandy Patinkin. We used to live in downtown Chicago, my wife and I, and we walked in, and in the building, one of the people working there saying, "Hey guys, I have some Mandy Patinkin tickets. Would you like some?" And I said to him, "Sure. Who is she? Is she a singer? What she?" And he said, "Yeah, funny." He thought I was joking, so he gave me the tickets. I looked it up. Okay, great. It's an actor. We're gonna go see him. So we went to see Mandy, and everybody's asking, do the Inigo Montoya, and Mandy does the Inigo Montoya. And we still don't know where it's from. We just know that everybody's in love with it and it's popular. We have no idea. Then I think the week after that, I fly out to Pittsburgh, doing some sort of a seminar or a class that I was teaching. And I get back to the hotel after the first or the second day of training. I turn on the TV and it's, "My name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die." I'm like, "Oh, honey!" I immediately call my wife. It's like, I know where it's from. And that was my Christopher Guest introduction there. Amazing actors.
That's great. Yeah, because they were both in that movie there.
Yeah, and just fantastic. And I've made my whole family watch that movie many times over since then.
Great movie, yeah.
Speaking of amazing actors, and Cliff, you've had a chance to work with him, Robert Duvall. I think he's one of the greatest actors that I've ever seen. What was it like? Did you get to kind of experience his process of how he does his thing?
Yeah. Yes. First off, I was like, "Oh, this is, I was like, I get to work with him and and have scenes with him and all that." And I did, and one of the things was he. I remember, like he's just so present he's so present, and he, when I'm, say if I'm speaking or he asks me a question, then he might, check. It's all in the look. It's in the eyes with him, right? And he's so present in the eyes. But one of the things was there was a scene in Open Range where I'm selling them candy and chocolate and cigars, and I'm the general store, Ralph, the general store guy, and there was at the end of the scene, he gives me, he says something that gives me a little bit of advice, but the character doesn't. But Robert says, Cliff, come here. At the end, after I say this, and I'm going, I'm going to get let into the brilliance of Robert Duvall.
Yeah.
And he goes, I'm going to say, remember that. And I thought,
Okay.
and I was going, I don't think it needs it. I didn't tell him that because it's Robert Duvall. I'm going, I don't think it needs it. But and I say, yeah, okay, good, thanks. And then we do the scene and all that. And at the end, he goes, Ralph, and then he goes, remember that, Ralph. And then he goes and when cut, and then Costner goes, yeah, Bobby, yeah, I don't think it needs to remember that. So I went, oh, but other than that, but I kind of went, oh, because I going, but the secret to what it is he keeps it simple, keeps everything simple.
Yeah.
He has, and it's a thought in his head, keeps it simple, and that's what I loved about him. And he loves it. You can tell he loves acting, and I think that's it. Like everything he gets, he invests himself so heavily into the part. So yeah,
And
that's
so, and that actually is a nice segue into what I wanted to talk to both of you about is the acting approach. You've been working for a while, for 30 plus years. You've been teaching. You've been on stage. You've been on screen. You've been off screen. You've done voiceover work as well. What is your approach to acting? What have you found that works? Because there are many strategies. There are many methods. There are many people you've worked with and you've picked things up along the way. What have you found that works for you? Liz, let's start with you.
Oh, I'm just sort of breathing because there are so many things. So I'm trying to pick something that I feel sits at the core of it. To me, and I don't know that I would say this when I was a young actor, but now it's very much about what's happening between. It's not about me. And that's something that once I made that turned that corner, that every scene I'm doing, every bit of text, every moment of silence, that the most important thing is making the connection with the other actor or with another object, and just bringing my truth to it. I struggle a lot with anxiety. Well, I mean, there are people that struggle with anxiety more than me, but I tend to have anxiety, and so I have to really bear down and calm down to be present, both on stage and on camera. But it comes down to truth, and trusting your body, trusting your instinct. I mean, of course, you have to build the craft to be able to support that trust of your body. But I think I draw from a lot of different techniques. I don't have a technique that I'm drawn to. I've found a lot of different things that have helped me over the years build my instrument and my practice.
Good. And before you've mentioned something that leads me to Cliff, and I wanted to ask him that question anyway. But when you have anxiety and when you're trying to get calm, are there any strategies that you would suggest for other people to try if they find themselves in that situation?
Well, breathing, always breathing. I have to do self-talk that I'm safe, that I'm wanted, that I've done my work and I know what I'm doing, and that it's okay if it goes wrong, which I find uh, I don't struggle with in theater rehearsal. I'm quite free in theater rehearsal, but sometimes on a set, especially when you're not a regular, I find it, and I know other actors, and some of them are very, very strong actors, that when you go in to be a day player, really nerve wracking because you're the new guy in the room and you don't know what the environment's like or what's expected and how does this director work and are they going quickly, is someone going to change all the lines on me, and all that as a day player. So over time I've had to sort of develop a lot of self-talk that it's okay, and if it goes wrong, that's okay. I don't always win, but that's really what it's, self-talk
Thank
and
you.
breathing. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Cliff, Liz
Hmm.
mentioned getting into your body and the physicality. Um, Obviously, you're a physical actor. You do a lot of things with your body. So I know different actors get into characters differently. For some it's more on here. For some it's more here. For some it's on the outside in. You put on the clothes and you start to understand more of the character. Is your approach because of the physicality? Is your approach through movement and what the character actually feels like in your body, or is that my imagination?
No, well, it might be your imagination, but your imagination has truth in it.
Okay.
So, uh, for me, yeah,
Mhm.
sometimes it's a matter of my footwear. Because you're grounded from your feet. I mean, I do try to, like I work both ways, but I do a lot of times need to kind of feel it and see it, and how am I dressed and all that. Am I wearing the right footwear? And a lot of people, I'm always amazed sometimes when in some rehearsals, and some actors, they're wearing their sneakers and all that, and going, I wish I was that confident. But I was like, I used to have in my contracts that I needed to get my footwear a week into the rehearsals. Like, they had to be there before, by the first week. And that was always helpful for me, because I, I think it has to do with a confidence, and I always had trouble seeing myself doing most parts. So I thought I needed this, the whole package to visually, and how it felt for me to feel the character. Now I'm in, as I'm older, I realize, no, that's not true, and uh, I think I always kind of knew that, but I didn't have the confidence to accept it. But generally, I do. It's very helpful for me to have the physical things of costume bits, or something that represents a bit of who this character is. Um, I wish I could just go in sneakers and whereas and be able to do that and find myself in it. But I have to find myself and that, because I get distracted very easily by that. So, I'm not proud of that, but it's just, it's whatever. To me, technique is whatever can help you.
Hmm.
Right.
And a lot of times I would go through my objectives and my obstacles and all that stuff, but generally sometimes you just kind of go like, oh, that's the person. And once you know who your character is, you can almost do anything.
Hmm.
But it's the confidence of knowing that this is the character. And once you find that character and go like, oh, I can do it, I can improvise if I want, I can do whatever. But we have this the wishy-washy area of, it's like with your first day on your feet in rehearsals is always like, most actors go, I'm the worst actor in the world, because you don't know what you're going, like, you're guessing, you feel physically uncomfortable, all that stuff. But but for me, it's finding out who that person is, and if the person is just me, just me and not a character or something, and that's fine too. And then I go out, I know who this guy is, but it depends. Sometimes I need a little bit of help.
Yeah, it's different. I speak to acting coaches. I speak to other actors. It's different for everybody,
Mhm.
and that's the beauty of it. You find yours.
Yeah.
Bruce Lee was talking about it's learn different things and then throw them all away and find your own flow. Be like water. Um, it's for me. I think what it is at the moment, and as I grow as an actor, it may change, but for me, it's the way to remain grounded is I have a lot of different aspects to me. So
Mhm.
I find the character, I find myself in that character, and then I find the differences, and then I go from there. But
Yeah.
my kind of rudder is I am me, and then I will add, or I will take away, or I will, kind of the alternate universe out of it. If it was me and I made that choice and now it went this way, that would have turned out that way. So I start here because it's grounded. I know it, and I can play it, and then go from there.
Absolutely.
That's the best way to approach it.
Yeah.
That because a lot of people go, oh, my character wouldn't do this, or I wouldn't do this, or something. You go, well, yeah, your character would do it because it says it on the script. So then you have to find a way of like, what would I do in that situation?
Yeah.
I'm doing it, so why?
Yeah. And I think what you were saying before, Alan, about like different versions of you, that's something that actually when I'm teaching that I talk to the kids about, that like every single human, there's a huge spectrum of who we really are. Like
Right.
there's the person we appear to be, but the Alan Cliff and I are meeting is different than your kid's dad version of Alan,
Yeah,
and your
they
mom and dad's version of Alan. Pardon?
they like this version of Ellen much more, by the way.
But we all have that, and I mean, there's people that like. I think once I kind of clicked into that there's this like I am. There's a spectrum of what Liz Saunders is, and some of it's contradictory, and some of it meshes, and some of it only appears in certain situations. But they're all Liz,
Yeah,
um, and so I get that. That really fills the work for me too. Going, well, of course I can do that. Of course I could behave that way conceivably, because I have behaved that way in a different situation to a lesser degree,
yeah.
You
and
know,
I rather enjoy it.
you mean like killing people and stuff
Yeah.
like that?
Well, yeah. Last year, the last couple of years, I've killed a lot of people or tried to. So
The best
Hey,
part.
and you got a nomination for it, so I think it's working. Stick with it.
I know. Actually, I called that year Matrons and Monsters, because I was basically either the nicest lady ever or a murderer.
Yeah. Well, listen, both live within us, right? We are light and dark, and
Yeah.
it's just about the balancing of it. Um,
Yeah.
last thing that I wanted to kind of touch upon is, coming back and seeking your counsel on how you've been able to stay working actors in the longevity of it. And looking at your careers, I start getting some hints of how that was likely possible, because you're doing many things and you're doing voiceover and you're doing cartoons, animated series, and you're doing stage and you're doing screen and you're doing teaching, now you're doing writing. Is that kind of the secret of how you were able to be in this for so long and be successful at it?
Uh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. I,
Yeah, go ahead.
I, I certainly, I think, well, first of all, yes, flat out. Second of all, I think our industry as a whole, and when I speak to industry, I speak to both film and theater, voice, all of it. Um, we've increasingly had to do that here in Canada anyway. That you're when I got out of school, you made a choice. You became an actor or a director or a writer, and there were a couple people that did it all. But now everybody kind of has to do it all, and so that's part of it. It's just that's what the industry is. But I think there's also now I've lost my train of thought. Oh dear.
It's all right. I'll step in
You'll
while
step
she's
in while my brain
trying to
comes
hail the
back.
train down. Yes, and in Canada, we
That's
have
my point.
we
Yes.
have the luxury. Actually, I call it a luxury of, you know, you don't have to just. I mean, sometimes it's like if you pick, you know, something and you focus on it, you can really excel. But we have the luxury of being able to do movies, TV,
Yeah.
theater. Nowadays, musical and straight theater, well, you know, drama, and voiceovers and cartoons. And for myself, I actually prefer to mix it up. I like I like. Oh, now I'm doing you know, I'm doing a movie. And but you know, then oh, I'm doing stage. Oh, this feels so great to do stage. And each time you just go, that's the world you're in.
Yeah.
And it's really I mean, we're lucky that way. Of course, the industry is shifting and all that stuff, and who knows now with this pandemic, but who knows what's next, right?
I will say too, I think it's, with the exception of those people that, hit the heights,
Right.
it's it's a necessity. And here in Canada, it's a necessity to be able to not just to be able to, but you need to be able to do a myriad of things. But like in Canada, I think because we don't have a real star system, like we don't get no, so we're most of us are making a living being supporting players, even though some of the supporting players in our country are, they're working a lot, and they may even have leads on our series, but in comparison to, say, the lead on a huge American series, you don't have the same kind of fame. So you sort of have to be able to slip yourself into a lot of different things. um, you can't really make it here. I don't. Well, maybe you can for a while when you're really young and really hot. I don't know. But in Canada, you can't really kind of sell yourself on one thing that you do. You.
Some people do. There's some people
do,
like
but
that's
very
what they
few.
do, but they do it well, and that's fine. But I mean, we're character actors, so it's you know, it's. I think in a sense we're lucky because we get interesting type parts, you
Yes.
know.
I do finally. When I was younger,
She was the ingenue a lot.
well, I wasn't. No, I wasn't even the ingenue. I sat somewhere in between. But
Yeah,
as
it's true.
you know, I mean, I will still complain about. I think the writing for women needs to improve vastly still.
Yeah.
So
Well,
that's how I feel. We're seeing it happen, but
Yeah. And I think the writing for short bald guys is, you know, practically non-existent, except for the end of the joke.
yeah. Well, I think the beauty of being a character actor is that you get a chance to be many different things. If I had a choice, if anybody was to ask me, what kind of a career would you like? Do you want to be a star and kind of be, pigeonholed into one particular flavor, or be a character actor? That's not even a question for me. I'm the character actor. That's much more fun. So that's what I.
same here. And also, like, when I was young, of course, there were dreams of fame and everything, and I don't have that anymore. I like that I'm able to just just have my life and be Liz, and not worry about having a persona that people are expecting from me that I can fail at publicly. Like, I like just being Liz. I'd like to be Liz with more money, but
Yeah.
maybe that'll happen.
Yeah, the fame thing, it's, in a sense, sometimes fame comes from, well, it comes from success getting projects that you really want to do, and sometimes fame is involved in that. But but then and then people complain about athletes and movie stars about how much money they have, and all that, and they make fun of them, but and complain about that. But you go, but that money is there because they can't go to the grocery store.
Yeah.
They can't walk down the street. They're constantly being bombarded with people, and people always want something from them in terms of whether it's an autograph, whatever it is, and we don't have to worry about that. but like a little bit. I mean, when I was in New York, there was like just a tiny little inkling of it sometimes, where I get recognized and stopped in the street for autographs and that, but or also at stage door, signing. But generally, New York's pretty decent for that. You can walk around pretty good there, but being really famous, that's hard. I mean, I think those people, I think they deserve and need that money.
Yeah, I remember, and again, this is a Canadian company, or a company that used to be in Canada, that I did all of my IT career is with that company. It's called Cognos. It was bought by IBM a while ago. It's based in Ottawa, still that part of it. And I remember when it was very hot, and I was getting paid lots of money per hour, and people were looking and saying, "You're making this much." And my response to them was, yes, but half of it goes to a psychiatrist. So I think a bit of the fame is the same way. Yes, you're making a lot, but a lot of it goes somewhere where you don't have to normally spend it if you don't have it.
Exactly. You've got you either have a team that you recognize as your team, or you probably have a team that you haven't even realized is actually your team. And we don't need those kind of supports quite the same way.
That's true.
When I was young, someone said, "Do you want to go to Hollywood?" And I was like, "No," because I would have to have a trainer on one side and a psychiatrist on the other at all times.
Yeah.
Because I joke, but I would be like, I think I would always be just neurotic about, I'm not thin enough, I'm not beautiful enough, I did that wrong, oh, I said the wrong thing, no, and I don't think I would want to spend much time there in that head.
Yeah, but even if
What to do with it? I just know I couldn't.
but even from the character actor perspective, the training part is important, not to look a certain way, because hopefully as a society and as an industry we're progressing away from that. But
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. I hope we are, and I hope it continues.
I hope so. It's just as an actor, it's so energetically, physically, psychologically, and emotionally draining. You have to have a trainer, because your body is going to break down. So you'll need one, whether you want to look a certain way, or you just need to stay alive from that perspective, because it's so draining.
No, that's what alcohol's for.
That's the inexpensive version of dealing with that problem. I get it. Thank you.
Yeah. It's not inexpensive. Trust me.
Oh God.
Listen, there's reality to it.
There's a whole bar behind this camera, right? Like there's this entire, just a bar.
And will the drinking start immediately after because of this interview, or?
I know, we started at 9 a.m.
A celebration.
Perfect.
It'll be a celebration.
Perfect. Thank you, Cliff. I appreciate you putting that on the right tracks.
Yeah.
Thank you both. It's been a pleasure and such a joy. I have a ton more questions for you, but I want to be nice to everybody's time and your ability to drink after. So you're welcome to come on again and again, so we can continue our discussions.
Well, that would be a real pleasure. I will say it's a bit unnerving, and this, it's just the ether, but not being able to, like, you don't want to see yourself all the time, because that's distracting. But when you can't see anything on the screen other than, like, we have two stills, one of you, one of us, and we're like, I have moments of going, am I sitting up straight?
I really enjoyed your questioning and your approach. It makes it very easy to do interviews, because they're not always easy, and a lot of times the interviewer is not always prepared. So then you have to you have to do all the work, and we didn't have to do any work, so we appreciate that. I appreciate it anyway.
Yeah.
Well,
Me too.
thank you. That means a lot to me.
It was just a lovely conversation. And when the border opens up and you're ever out this way, give us a shout.
Thank you. I definitely will be, and I love Toronto. I've been there 5 times, I think. But it reminds me of two things actually. It reminds me of Chicago because of the lakefront and the downtown area. But then as you step outside of it, it reminds me of Ukraine, where I came from. So Toronto has that unique ability of reminding me of both my past and my present, and I love it for it.
Nice. Yeah.
Wow.
Well, we love Chicago.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it's a beautiful place. You're always welcome as well once the border opens up. And thanks for everybody for tuning in. We appreciate it. Thanks for staying up with us. And please comment. We want to know what you think, and please go check out all of the information and all the places that I'm sure you have seen both Liz and Cliff in. We will link it right below this video. Thank you, everybody.